what happened to the people of Chateaubelair and Fetius? Because we go to Walibu school, we can understand. Because we went to the University of Chateaubelair, we can't understand. Well, we have street sense.
From 1971 up until 1979, we inhale sulfur, sulfur, because that is the direction of the wind coming over. You have that project over there with the dust, and for 30 years.
And if Mr. Kenton did not put this on Eyewitness News, this meeting would not happen.
We are going to ensure as a government, as a responsible government, we're going to ensure that this project is done in a way that is sustainable for all.
And if our parliamentary representative, Mr. James, is really for us, he'd want to step back a little bit.
And I'm not going to take the people of North Leeward on a road that is not going to bear any fruits or benefit to them.
Today, the 3rd of February 2022, about 70 residents of North Leeward attended a public information session here. In attendance was the MP Carlos James and Minister of Agriculture Saboto Caesar, as well as Mr. Richard Branch, a representative of Rainer Construction, which would be operating the quarry here in the community. Eyewitness News was here, and here is what happened.
It's a meeting to address the issue of the quarry development which will be taking place. I can recall as far back as 2008 when a company out of Martinique came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they had a particular interest to develop this same quarry and also to address the issue of the purchasing of stones for export. That was as far back 2008-2009. We had several consultations and interest was piqued in different communities, and we had the departments of lands and surveys, but also forestry, fisheries and agriculture involved. By 2012-2013, the interest was not that keen again from that particular company in Martinique. And about 2020, we had the expression of interest from a company in St. Lucia. And what we did, we basically went back to the files. We internally, from the standpoint of the public service, got the files and we engaged the planning department, and we started to do some internal work. So over the last 6 or 7 months, there was significant internal work being done by different technicians in different ministries. And some persons may say, okay, why are we having the meeting with the farmers only now? And the answer to that is that we had to complete the technical work first. In fact, I had a presentation this morning, but I had the report a few weeks ago from the dives which were done by the Department of Fisheries as it pertains to the presence or absence of coral reef in the area that the jetty will be established. So I just want to clear up that and to clarify that from the start. I could not come to you with a concrete word as to the way forward before now, since the information is now concretized, and I noted the presentation by the area representative that a few weeks and months ago, when the company really started to few months ago when the company really started to express even keener interest, there was the issue grappling with the volcano and also the issue of COVID-19 pandemic. And as we are seeing here, we're having this in the open. And I want this to be said and to be noted clearly, especially by the media here, that this is the first of many meetings. There are going to be a lot more meetings like this because this government...
This is the only third meeting. One this morning and one prior.
Right.
A series of meetings.
Yes, so there will be many more meetings because we would ensure that at every step of the way, all stakeholders are informed. And I was coming to that important point that this morning we had a meeting. There are several farmers who are here who were there this morning at that meeting. It was an on-site meeting. And at that meeting we had, importantly, the chief surveyor. And what the chief surveyor did this morning was that he took out the plan of the lands which have been earmarked for the quarry, and he called a list of names of persons who had registered an interest in the land with lands and surveys over the years, called out the list of names, and persons right there and then said that there are some persons who are deceased, and there are some persons who are present, some persons' grand and great-grandchildren are there working the land. And what was clearly noted is that there are some names of persons who are working on the land who never, ever had submitted their names to lands and surveys. And what we are going to do is that for those parcels which will be identified as falling within the 54 acres for the development, that those persons, whether or not you had put down your name at lands and surveys, once you're working the land, we are going to ensure that persons are compensated for their crops on the land. And it was noted clearly by the chief surveyor this morning that the government will be working to find alternative lands for persons, because it is very important for us to note compensation with money for your crops is one thing, but the money that you get for compensation is going to finish. And we know that there are many hard-working farmers here who want to continue farming with some monies from the compensation, with the assistance from the ministry. So what took place this morning was that the Agriculture Department was there, and the Ministry of Agriculture has been there on two occasions prior to this morning. So you are correct. It is a long series of discussions that will take place. So that's about 5 sessions already. There's an issue that has been raised, and I want to clarify it because I'm happy that the media is here to carry this message, especially to persons who are not aware as to the answer to this particular concern. Some of us here have climbed that rock face before. I did it in 2009 and it wasn't easy. If you are to go across that whole rock face to do an assessment, farmer by farmer, it's going to take a very long time. What you have seen, what you saw over the last few days is the cutting of a track so that the surveyors and also the assessors from the Ministry of Agriculture can better access the plots in order to do the assessments. The chief surveyor and the surveyors cannot stay in Kingston and do the assessments as it pertains to the different plots. They have to actually come on the land and they have to drop the different points, and it is going to take some time. So I just want to clear that up. The works that you're seeing there now, those are not works for mining. That is not mining the quarry. That is the preparatory work. Putting the work in so that the assessments can begin. The way how this thing is going to be done, it is going to be done in a very mathematical way. And for persons who have followed how this government has gone about to construct the Argyle International Airport, where lands were acquired, it's not something that you're going to be doing in a willy-nilly fashion. By law, the chief surveyor is the person who is in charge of all lands owned by the government. And whilst we're having this general discussion here around certain issues, the chief surveyor will want all of the persons who will receive a formal letter. So persons will receive a formal letter and will be invited on the site by the Department of Lands and Surveys. And there and then you would also have the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries there. So what we are doing here is just basically to give you the information of what will be taking place. So there will be a letter coming to all the persons of interest in that particular area. I cannot tell you that your land is going to fall inside or your land is going to fall outside, because I am not the chief surveyor. The chief surveyor was wrong there this morning and he outlined the boundaries, and there is going to be another site meeting with the agriculture department. Some of the crops there are being governed under the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, because there are some persons there who have licenses to farm cannabis. And as I said earlier in the meeting this morning, that the Ministry of Agriculture will not be doing the valuation on the cannabis. Those valuations will be done by the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. And of course, the valuation will be done in your presence. I am aware that in order to do the tracks to go up on the hillsides so that we can have better access to do the assessments, that the tractor would have gone through some parcels and would have caused damage and loss to existing crops. I want for those persons who are affected to be aware and to rest assured that you will be compensated for the damage and the loss. But before I take my seat, because this evening's meeting is really your meeting, before I hand over to the area representative, I want to close on this important point, that the project will bring significant benefits to the entire country. I want us to approach this project with an open mind. I want the farmers to be aware that I am here as the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labour, to ensure that the technical assessments are done and that the livelihoods are protected for the farmers. There are also fishers who will be affected and impacted, and I was notified by the Fisheries Department that they are satisfied with the mitigating measures that they will be putting in. And the Fisheries Division will come down and have a consultation with the fishers, because I am aware that at some of these meetings you have a lot of farmers sometimes, but you don't have a lot of fishers. The Forestry Division had gone in and they did their assessments, and we are going to ensure as a government, as a responsible government, we're going to ensure that this project is done in a way that is sustainable for all. Thank you very much. Mr. James, your representative.
Thank you very much, Minister Caesar. And let me say good evening to persons who are here at this open consultation. I want to start where Minister Caesar left off, because we have been having a series of discussions with persons who have an interest in the Richmond site, persons who are farming, the environmentalists, persons who are environmentally conscious, and all of the relevant stakeholders. We've had a series of engagements. We started many months ago with the initial discussion surrounding the approval for the quarry. The application by Renault Construction out of St. Lucia was a registered entity here in the state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And following those applications to planning, we then had some technical consultations. This was involving the physical planning department, the Minister of Works, the Minister of Air and Seaports, the Minister of Agriculture, myself, and also technical persons from the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority, the Sustainable Development Unit, the SVG Conservation Fund, also in attendance, Richmond Vale Academy was also present and represented by Stein. And we had a broad-based discussion on the application, how the operators intend to proceed with the works at the quarry, and those technical persons made certain recommendations to the applicant to say, this is what we will require of you, for you to ensure that there are the environmental safeguards that are in place, importantly. Secondly, to ensure that there's minimal disruption to livelihood, protection of mangroves on the Richmond beach, which in fact the Richmond Vale Academy was very strong on in the point that they made. Protection of the river mouth in terms of the tree vendors who normally ply the trade, they harvest the tree and they package and they sell. And all of these things were taken into consideration. What came out of that discussion was several changes to the operation, or the initial operation that they were looking to start. One, if you go to the site, you will notice a road is being cut at the river mouth inland, because the intention is to have a jetty docked out, constructed out onto the end of the land there in Richmond to export out the quarry and to also bring in heavy equipment. You will notice the shift, they went inland so as to protect livelihoods on the riverbed and the river mouth, and also to protect the natural flow of the river in the Richmond area. A second measure that was considered and agreed on was the stabilizing of the riverbed by initially starting with reinforcements along both sides of the Richmond River, and which will also be an advantage to persons on the other side of the river, the main road, so that we have a free flow and the river don't take too much of the land inland, both on the side of the operation, the intended site for the operation, and also on the side of the road. Those who are users of the road in Richmond will know from time to time, we always have to continuously cut inland because of the erosion of the river bank that is holding up the road. So we'll be seeing some works there as well to protect that aspect of the riverbank. What you see taking place now in Richmond is in fact not the mining operation. In fact, the operators, and who's represented here by Richard Branch, he will give you an insight as to what is taking place and what is expected in the next few months. What you see taking place now, as Minister Caesar indicated, is the initial clearing of the area to identify demarcations or points in which they may want to, at some point later, in the next 6 to 8 months, decide which areas they are going to target to start the mining or the operation. So they have not started the operation, but they are clearing and putting the pointers or the markers and surveying markers to identify how and when they are going to start the operation. So we had some disruption to some of the farmers, both formal and informal farmers, and I want to apologize to the farmers. In fact, we had a meeting, a long meeting this morning in Richmond with most, if not all, of the farmers who are farming within the Richmond area, and those primarily who would be affected. And that meeting started from roughly about 10, went straight into midday. And we had a very insightful discussion on the way forward. Most of the farmers who were there understood the significance of the project. Most of the farmers were generally concerned that the discussion had not taken place sooner. And I do understand and appreciate the concerns that they raised. But they were reassured by the Chief Surveyor and the Minister that every effort will be taken to register all of the farmers, take the information into a database, the continuous discussion and dialogue and appraisal of what is being planted now and what they planted, some which were disrupted, for the compensation for those farmers. So I'm quite happy that that discussion was held earlier today, and most of the farmers who attended had a settled view that they will be compensated, and possibly in some instances we will identify suitable lands to relocate some of the farmers who are affected. So all that was settled this morning with the farmers. Importantly going forward, and I want to extend this not just to the farmers but also the fishers and the persons who are harvesting the tree. There too, we have to document those who are, and I know every tree catcher in the Richmond River. I know all of them. I have an idea of the names, and I know all of the tree catchers. So we'll be documenting those persons with the view of also providing compensation to those persons within the river mouth at Richmond.
So what about the people with the gravel now?
Now, those who are mining, the quarry would not extend out to beyond the point of the river into the area where the persons who make a daily living from harvesting the fine gravel and so on. Those persons will not be affected. It is my understanding that the mangroves as well on the river mouth going back to the Richmond beach, they too would also be afforded some protection and will not be affected by the operation. So initially it will just be the nucleus of the farmers within the points which they have cleared the land and identified, who would obviously and naturally be affected when the operations start within the next 6 to 8 months or possibly 12 months from now. We had a discussion, as I said earlier this morning, some of the questions raised by persons whether or not the hillside is going to be eroded so to affect persons in Takata, in Fitzhugh and other areas who are sheltered from the hillside leading into Richmond? And the answer to that is simply no. The intention is not to operate where it affects persons who are living over onto the Kakata side of the Richmond Peak.
Okay.
And we have to ensure that the safety of those persons and the chief surveyor, who's an engineer, indicated from his assessment of the plans and the approval, the quarry does not extend over into that area. In fact, there are farmers on the other side above the housing settlement. They too will not be affected by the operation of the quarry. I want to indicate further that we always have this balancing consideration when it comes to development. Yes, we are going to see a particular change in the environment at Richmond. It's a new operation that is going to take place. Millions of dollars are going to be invested. There's the opportunity for the creation of employment, both operators, workers, and even truckers and so on in the area to a degree. But importantly, we have to give consideration to the livelihoods of people in the area. And we have to take that very seriously. And as the parliamentary representative, and I told the farmers and I gave them the assurance this morning, I am here standing with them to ensure that the commitment is made for a suitable and reasonable compensation to those who are affected. And I want to say that when I make that point, I make that point very firmly, that I am championing your cause, and I'm extending that out to even the fishy catchers and persons in the surrounding area who will be affected. Just briefly to conclude on that point, we have had the eruption of the Lasso Fray and the COVID-19 pandemic. And I made a commitment to the people of North Leeward that we are going to see some transformation within this area, particularly in the Chateaubelair area, both in the infrastructure and also the economy, our local rural economy. And we are starting with a series of all of these projects. We will be repairing the fisheries complex. We have some monies allocated in the budget for that, providing support to fishers within the area, and to ensure that our blue economy and the resources in which we are in abundance here, we can benefit from that in a sustainable and sustainable environment. We have started work on the old agriculture depot in Chateaubelair, which will transform into an agro-processing center on the ground floor and a community tourism hospitality training center on the top floor to offer training and possibly civic training in hospitality and bartending and all of these related services. We are right now discussing with some private investors the reopening of the gas station in Chateaubelair, because it is going to be an integral part of our development. And I'm hoping we can have this up before the end of the year. We can start some work on it, and we can go into the next year with the operation. We have to obviously go through the necessary measures and approvals and so on from planning, and also the fuel suppliers. They have to also come and do their assessments and so on where the application is concerned. And I want to see that project proceed this year so that we can at least come to some completion in the year 2022. We are also hoping to start, and I made mention of the administrative center, which will be at the nucleus and the heart of the whole economic activity of our rural town. You come in from the jetty which we built, over $5 million we invested there. You come in on it, you go into the administrative center, customs and immigration. Financial services, in fact, 2 financial institutions are lining up to make a bid to operate in the administrative complex right there in Chateaubelair. So we'll have banking, customs and immigration, our local town board, our post office, and of course, a room or a meeting hall which we can accommodate persons from the area to host activities and forums of this nature. That will take place in the heart of Chateaubelair head of town, as part of the overall infrastructure development that will be taking place. So when I tell you we are going to see some transformation in this place, it starts now with a level of rapidity, as we have lost a number of months into a year with the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruption of the last of it. But Chateaubelair town is going to be transformed, and we will see some serious economic activity in that place. Richmond is very much a part of that. Because on one side, while you may have the operation of a quarry, and operated in a very controlled way with all of the environmental safeguards, on the other side, where there's the existing Richmond tourism project, we are right now in discussions with the World Bank for financing of up to $2.5 million for a tourism-related project for that area, which is going to create employment, create opportunities for people within the Chateaubelair and North Leeward. All of these things are taking shape and will transform our community and provide the opportunities that all of us have been saying. Yes, we want jobs, we want sustainable livelihoods, we want the opportunity to earn, and we're providing all of these measures and putting the necessary things in place for that. So while I appreciate and I understand the concern of the farmers, particularly those who are adversely affected, I am in your corner. I am standing with you, and I am here to ensure that both the government during the assessment phase and the operators during the phase of compensation provide the most suitable and reasonable sum for you, for your loss and for the adverse impact which you would have felt from this project. But I want to say it is an important project for all of us nationally, but also it will be an important project to benefit the people of North Leeward in a significant way. But we have to ensure that we do the responsible thing by keeping our eyes on the operators. They have met all of the requirements from planning and all of the environmental safeguards. So they have been granted approval, but we have to still make sure that they hold to the commitment which they say they are going to do, to put the environmental safeguards in place and to provide the compensation to our farmers in the area. And I believe, and I will tell you this, I left St. Vincent, paid my own passage, and I traveled to St. Lucia.
Thank you.
Because I want to be comfortable knowing that whoever is coming into my area, they have good practices and standards which are environmentally friendly. And I traveled, I paid my own way and traveled to St. Lucia. Visited one of the sites for renew construction, and I didn't give him advance notice so he can clean up and show me something which is not real. I called him the evening before I visited the quarry, I said, I am in St. Lucia. I want to pay a visit to one of your sites. I went to a site, and what I saw there, from my assessment, his practices are sound, they are environmentally friendly. In fact, on the quarry I saw, he had a small farm, he had ducks, he had livestock, he had a pond in which he was practicing water conservation, all of that in the operation of a quarry. And I was quite surprised to see that you can operate a quarry with such environmental friendly components to it. And I went there personally to look and have a look, because I want to know who is coming here to ensure that they can provide a safe environment for all of North Leeward, even though they are doing the operation of the quarry. And what I saw in St. Lucia, I was comfortable with that. And if that is the way he practices in St. Lucia, I expect him to maintain those same practices here in St. Vincent and in North Leeward. And I will hold him accountable to that. He has indicated to me that he is prepared to even put an additional component to the pier to facilitate smaller vessels, fishing vessels in the area, and other pleasure crafts will be accessing Richmond site as part of the development. And he is happy to accommodate that. And I said, you sure this will not affect your project? He said, no, I will design it in such a way that we can accommodate that. And I'm saying to you, if he's willing to work with us, we have to also be prepared to work with him in that regard. And I'm not going to take the people of North Leeward on a road that is not going to bear any fruits or benefit to them. I am with you, and I want to work in your interest. And all of the projects I mentioned for the Chateaubelair tongue and the district here in North Leeward, I want to work with you collectively to ensure we can deliver those. And we deliver those to see the transformation that North Leeward so badly deserves. And I want you to hold me responsible for that, Eddie.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you very much. And I guess we can hear from, I think we have some officials here as well from the ministry, but you may want to hear from one of the representatives of the operators here who will be operating in Richmond.
Good afternoon. I don't know if I can add anything else because the two ministers have covered everything so well. But I want to assure you that your representative is indeed keeping our approach to this thing very closely. 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes after 11 at night, we're on the phone to make sure that things are being done properly and in compliance with the documents that we have signed and agreed to. I also want to apologize for the inconveniences caused to the farmers, as mentioned by Minister James. I think people had the impression that the quarry is about to start. But the fact is, this is really the preparatory work. This is where we're establishing the boundaries, establishing, we have to do some soil testing to see what type of setup there will be, etc. The quarry is at least 6 months away from commencing, at least 6 months away. Because the plans have to be brought in, they have to be commissioned, these things take time. So what you see in here is that I think I've been getting the impression that people feel like the quarry is starting this month, and then there's some level of disrespect, and I can adhere to that principle that you have, that it seems that way. That's the perception. But sorry, it is so. Well, I hear you, and I understand your feeling. I mean, if any in your position, I can relate to you. Right, but at the end of the day, this is all part of the process. This is part of the process where we're doing these assessments now to make sure that everybody, all farmers, are treated fairly. In terms of the project, I think it's a very good project for North Leeward. I'm not a politician who's going to promise you jobs. This is a reality of jobs. This is a reality of jobs. This is in St. Lucia. He directly employs about 250 people. Indirectly, it's about 800 to 1,000 that benefits from the spilloffs from the quarry and so. This is a little bit smaller quarry, so our estimation is that employment will start out somewhere in the region of 50 posts in initial stages and builds up to 150. What that does do is that it improves the buoyancy of all the villages, because once you have these employment, you have little shops in your villages that people can go now and spend the money on their little Friday evening bars, etc. So it's a good thing for the Chateaubelair area. What I can assure you is that everyone will be treated fairly. Everyone will be treated fairly, and this is going to create real employment for real people of Chateaubelair. So, thank you.
I just want to recognize the presence of the Chief Agriculture Officer, the Gums, and also Senior Technician Koromo Brown, and other senior, Mr. Bull is here, senior technicians in the ministry. So the floor is going to be open for questions, comments. I want us to do it in a very orderly manner. We'll take the questions and we will respond to the questions accordingly. So the floor is officially open.
Mr. Minister, my name is Elton James, right? I'm a resident of Chateaubelair and also a farmer at Richmond, not in the area where you are really doing the construction, right? I'm not anti-development.
You want to use it?
Please, I'm a nation builder because I work as a supervisor for the line of England, okay? So I'm not against development. There are a few things that I want to point out, right? Now, basically, from what I understand, the stone crusher is going to be placed at the flat at Richmond, okay? At Mr. Cole's land. I'm sure, I don't sure if I'm right? But let us look at this. It is believed that hot air rises, okay? So when all these crushers send this hot steam up in the air, do we ever really consider what type of wind blow here, if it's northeast trade wind or whatever, and where the actual dust would go, and if it would affect the community, right? I just want to find out that, because actually it might be on a long-term basis that it might eventually affect people. Because look, for example, there it rises, here's a gully, the people in the Rosal, how is it going to impact on them and the areas around? Remember I said, I'm not anti-development, because I believe in development. But we have to look at it in a more holistic way, because this thing will have long-term effect on how it is going to affect the people. Simple as that.
Yes, so I've listened to the concern. As I said this evening, we're focusing on the agriculture aspects, the compensation aspects. I take a note, and there's going to be another meeting where the persons who did the environmental assessment study will come and explain that to the community. I spoke to the chief surveyor this morning, and he addressed those issues, and he said that it had passed the test. That came out clear this morning by the chief surveyor. But the persons who are there, or the farmers, we will have the chief surveyor come, and also the other people from planning to explain. We have Mr. Poole and then.
Okay, I have two questions. I'm going to make a statement first of all. Now, Mr. Branch, you mentioned the quarry is not going to start, right? But as far as I understand, this is not just a quarry, it is a project. So what has started, the project has actually started. And I think the concern of the residents of Chateaubelair and Fitzhugh and so on is that you see activities and nobody was informed. That is the basic point. Because yes, no equipment around there in terms of crushing stones. But since August, a lot of equipment around Richmond waiting to start what they're doing now. So that is our concern. And you heard the lady up there? That's my wife, eh? So she learning from me. No, seriously. That's why we talk about the disrespect. And I'm not going to let go of that term until we get a clear understanding that we have to respect all the farmers here, because I'm a part-time farmer. I'm a hard-working farmer, but I'm a part-time farmer. You see most of these guys here? That's what they depend on. That's what they depend on, right? And I'm going to segue into the compensation that you all mentioned. Because when I look at the compensation list, the prices of your tomato and whatever, it's from since the dinosaurs been running the earth. It's true. And you can't be using that now to assess somebody's crop that they work hard on. Right? Things expensive. Fertilizer expensive. Labor expensive. Okay? So I want to get a firm commitment that the farmers are going to be compensated adequately. Okay, I wasn't there. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. But because, for example, let's look at cocoa. A bearing cocoa tree is going to give you a certain amount of dollars over the years, right? So you can't be assessing cocoa based on the list that is at the Ministry of Agriculture. Right? Those are my 2 points. I might come back, but those are my 2 points.
Right. I want to address the issue of the compensation. And this morning I was very clear in my presentation, and I agree 100% with Mr. Poole, that the assessments and the assessment sheet of the value of crops for crops in St. Vincent and Grenadines by the Ministry of Agriculture is outdated, and as was noted quite recently at the level of the cabinet, we have to relook them. And in fact, there was a recent assessment that was done for farmers in Bukomen, and they had to deviate from the valuations of the 1980s. In fact, I said this morning in my presentation to the farmers that it is now 2022, and we have to value them at 2022 prices. I want persons to be aware of that. Also, the valuation is not going to be done by the Ministry of Agriculture assessment in your absence, because at the end of the day, the surveyor has to demarcate where your parcel is. He has to, in the presence of the Ministry of Agriculture, do the assessment. So you have to do your counting. The ministry would have to do the counting, and you agree on the quantities, you agree on the commodities, you agree on the age, and as you mentioned, the issue of cocoa. Cocoa is very valuable, and I noticed also in the area, citrus is there, and citrus is also scarce. Not only because of the volcanic eruptions, but because of the disease that we have throughout the region. So all those things would impact on market prices and would have to be taken into consideration.
And you having a meeting with the people that could explain to us concern the wing, so I'll leave those. Now, I need to know, I don't know what, I never went by the meeting in Richmond, so I need an estimate of how long the project will be going. I'd say 20 years? 30 years? Now, 30 years of landscaping. How long we live in Chateaubelair? We live a lot of years in Chateaubelair, and we see what the mountain rain do in Richmond. we farm the land and we farm the sea. Now, everything from the landscape gonna go to the sea, to the river, to the sea. So 30 years, what's gonna happen to the water every rain season? We cannot fish. We cannot fish. And this water does not play over a period of 3-4 months. And rain comes like every month, every week. So what we're gonna do?
If I can answer that, in part of the management plan, including the management plan, it is our intention to construct bombs along the riverbank. What is a bomb? A bomb is really a mountain that is somewhere between 20 feet wide by 12 feet high. That will protect that. We will also construct a series of silt ponds that is going to take the runoff of the water into these silt ponds before they run back into the river. So what the silt pond does is that the silt pond collects all the solids, right? The elevation, I think, from top to bottom is, I think, 47 meters or thereabout, based on our initial things. So that natural elevation would assist in the runoff into the silt pond, and then the riverbank will be protected with the
So you're saying this gonna hold the water until it's settled?
Yeah. Yes, it holds the water.
Do you know the amount of water that came from these mountains?
Well, there's a lot of water, but we
Do you know the amount of water came from the mountain?
Well, of course, we're putting in the safeguards based on the environmental study.
No. Yes? The soil will settle. Now tell me, the hydraulic cables might bust.
Right.
You have leakage by the machines, where the oil will be going.
All that is taken care
The oil cannot settle in water. The oil gonna float with the water.
And
by going by the riverside, they're gonna sink into the side of the river. So therefore, fish gonna be contaminated as we live by the river and the sea.
As the minister says, it is a continuous process. Yeah. They're going to hold us to what we agree to put in place to make sure that there's no contamination into the water.
Yes,
we're putting in place.
To put that. But that's gonna prevent what you say.
In our estimation, it will. But as I say, it's an ongoing process that we're gonna make sure that those contamination does not occur.
Next question. Do you know where you're gonna build the wharf?
Sorry?
Do you know the operating point where you're gonna build the wharf? Do you know how it operates?
Where the wharf is going? Yes, there's drawing submitted that has been approved by
This is something that if it takes 2,000 tons, it goes to the bottom. There's no bottom there, it just, and you're gonna put something there, so whatever happened to it? Every time one simple flood our water off, every time it falls to a point, it goes. So what are you gonna do about it? And it didn't reach as yet to the point what it sinks to. It's not reaching yet. It keeps coming all the time. So when you put this weight, what's gonna happen? It's gonna stay?
Well, I can tell you from the professional standpoint that is in the document, it is something that has been agreed that it will last. Right? I mean, certain things that we didn't see happen in 100 years has happened by nature. So I can't guarantee that. But what I can tell you, it will be professionally done to ensure that it upholds to the highest standards.
Right? You just guessing about it, but you're not living here for years. Listen carefully, I'm a fisherman. Right at this show said 100 yards. It takes over 300 yards to touch the bottom.
In terms of the depth, I don't have the drawings here, but we're going up to only up to a specific depth. I think it's 30 feet depth. That is what is required to accommodate the barges that will come in there.
But there is no solid bottom there.
But the way we're doing it is to pack.
Before I confuse you, listen. You see where you got the container on the beach? You know that is actually in the ocean? That is actually in the ocean. You see where you carve the rock at the river? That is actually in the ocean. So what are you going to do with it when you put no weight? What will happen to it?
What we'll do, we'll take your concerns on board, but we definitely look at it. I hear you.
Well, we are just destroying our living.
You made a very important point, brother, regarding the environmental safety, right? The lifespan of the project. It's not that you just put in the safeguards, no, and then hope that it captures all of the sediments, it captures all of the oil or lubricants that will likely seep from the topsoil to the. What will happen over a period of time is quite obviously enhancements to what is currently there. As you said, we all know the river.
So
we all know the movement of the Richmond River.
You say over a period of time it won't.
For every action that is likely to be adversely impacting on the environment, there must be a reaction to that. It's not just that you put the safeguards and if there's a breach of it, that's it. Over the lifespan of the project, they will have to be continuously upgraded and improving on the safeguards of it in a very safe and controlled way.
You looking to engage that it won't happen, so you figure that it won't move.
No, I'm not referring to I'm referring to the safeguards on both the shorelines and inland. Right? In addition to the fishing, currently we are right now putting together proposals on the project called the Unleashing the Blue Economy project, which is going to see some additional funds being put offshore for fishermen within the area as well. This is going to be tied into the project in Chateaubelair, the rehabilitation of the Chateaubelair fisheries complex, and we're basically setting points out offshore for funds to accommodate, persons who have an interest in fishing and the marine.
That is to hand-line fishing, Mr. James. But what about the person, them who have their net? Where will they be casting them?
They won't be affected in the area. That's what I'm saying.
If you cannot see, how you catch the fish.
All the safeguards would be in place on land.
Mr. James, how long are you living in Chateaubelair?
But they're technical people who have done the assessment.
James, every time a flood comes in Chateaubelair after a period of almost years, is you present when the flood is?
But technically, there are persons who have done a technical assessment of the area, and we're quite. And the planning is quite satisfied with the submissions of the.
After the flood is cool, you come.
No, but there's some very important point you're making.
Do you see the amount of water?
We can flesh it out after, but let me give somebody a chance. There's some other questions, right?
We have more than time for questions.
Of course, this is our continuous dialogue.
Yes, good afternoon.
Let's hear the question.
I'm not a farmer, but I live in the area because all I'm hearing about farming and fishing. And I was not necessarily pleased with how the Honorable Caesar dismissed when Mr. James spoke about the dust. So how we dismiss it and say we're not dealing with that today. We're dealing with compensation for the farmers, and I didn't like that. I have a few questions and I will bounce. Number one, did you do a feasibility study, and on the heels of that, did you do an environmental impact study on the project?
No.
Did you do a feasibility study, and did you do an environmental impact study?
No.
On the project?
No.
Environmental impact study was done after years.
No, 2008.
Hold on, wait. Hold on.
Let me answer your question.
A few years right now. Wait. Let's go.
Let me answer your question.
Let's go. Yes.
Let me answer the question. An environmental impact assessment study is not a 3 or 5 year document.
Yes, sir.
An environmental impact assessment.
Come on, let me hear it, man. Come on.
The answer is that the chief surveyor this morning said the impact.
Right. An environmental impact assessment is not a 3 or 5 or 7 year project document. An environmental impact assessment is a document that can last 20 years. What is important is the environmental management plan that comes out of that impact assessment, which was of course done.
So the question to you is,
Has a report of that study been published?
No.
And if so,
Robertson, the camera say you're walking in.
where can I get a copy?
Well, I can tell you it has been submitted. It has been submitted to the planning department.
It's not.
How long ago?
To be honest, I can't tell you how long.
You're the project manager
But
here.
Mrs. Steinberg
You're
said
the project
it's
manager.
2000. I'm not the project manager. I'm not the project
What are you
manager.
here as?
I'm one of the managers.
So I'm asking you,
Right.
how long ago was the study done and where can we get a report?
Well, Ms. Steinberg said it's in 2008. I think you said
2008.
the chief.
Hold on. I am not talking about management, Mr. James. What I am specifically asking, has a study been done to show how the sedimentation is going to affect the fishes, how the dust is going to affect the environment, how the project is going to affect the livestock in that area? Ironically, we can stop here and look over there.
Can I answer your question?
Wait, hold on.
Let me finish.
So, has it been done and where can we get the report?
Yes,
Go.
the studies have been done and you will be provided with studies. The fisheries department, they have done their study. Agriculture has done their assessment. All these assessments
Where can we
be
get the
provided
report?
to you.
Where can we get the reports?
On Monday morning, you could come to the ministry.
No,
and
no,
get
no.
them.
Is it online? Is it available online?
No. If you want them presented to you, you could leave a number.
No,
and
not
get
to
them
me.
to you.
It's us.
It could be presented to you.
It's us.
You think you're dealing with more fundamental requirements and not what you're dealing with?
Secondly, when did you meet with the farmers? When did you meet with the farmers to register? Are they registered? Wait. Are the farmers? Wait. The farmers.
Yeah, one meeting, please.
The farmers who will be impacted.
Yes.
Have they been registered? Do you know who they are?
Yes, we know who the farmers
When
are.
did you meet with them?
We met with the farmers this morning.
And don't you think that is an insult to meet with farmers this morning after project already starts Saturday?
The
Come
project
on,
hasn't
man.
started.
Come on.
We are
It's
the
an
next
insult.
question.
I want to add, because that is why
It's
I
an
came down. That
insult
was
to
my
not meet with
question.
farmers to meet with them this morning.
Now it's next person.
And if Mr. Kenton did not put this on Eyewitness News, this meeting would not have happened.
That's absolutely.
That's your view. That's your view. Next person.
Hold on. Next person. Next person.
So I want to continue where he left off because
That's not true.
because that is
Hold on. Next person.
Let's move on.
that is why I came down. This can be a consultation because consultation would have taken place before. Most of us knew about what was happening, and we have to thank Reno, for them to start plowing into people's farms for us to know. Yes, way back, and you said, Sinai said 2008, there were some mention. We can't say we had consultation because when that conversation started, we began the objection right away. If nothing else, we spoke about what our livelihoods were and the impact on the environment. Now, if you said, sir, that it is not a 3-year, 5-year something, but if you're coming back using the 2008 consultation, as you say, or environmental study, this time is 2022, a lot have taken place from that period to now. And given what was done in 2008, all that we notice is happening now were never part of that project. It was never. This is new. There are additions, and I am saying for us to better understand what is happening to us, we need to see the study to be able to understand it. We also need to know the project. We don't know. Mr. James spoke about where certain things would be laid out. We don't know. We are just guessing, and it is an insult to us to have us guessing. Let's look at our government. Even the last project that took place, but the people from Rose Place, they were consulted. Certain decisions were made and certain agreements came to board. They knew they were part and parcel of the process. We talk about the airport, and I can name a number of projects, and the Prime Minister speaks about it. How they would consult with the people. What happened to the people of Chateaubelair and Fetius? Because we go to Walibu school, we can understand. Because we went to the University of Chateaubelair, we can understand. Well, we have street sense. We know that we are supposed to understand what is happening. We believe in development. Development, though, begins with people.
Yes.
We have to understand, and we are not anti-project. We are not anti-project. If the project is going to bring, and I'm going to quote the minister, the project will bring significant benefits to the entire country. We have no problem with that.
No.
We will want to contribute to that.
Yes.
But we might die before, because if you're taken from us, all of a sudden, the impact of just knowing, we're not just walking Saturday, and we realize, wait, things going, and you're telling me the project ain't started, the quarry ain't started, something start. The preparatory work has begun, and that is what made us open our eyes to realize something is happening. And you need to tell us, we need to have a conversation. We need to know the objective of what is going to happen and what is in it for us. I am sorry that I missed the 10 o'clock meeting because I didn't know.
Exactly.
In a sense. So, and that you might not want to repeat now. We would like to hear for those of us who are absent, but the chief has gone and he wouldn't be able to give us. But, Mr. Minister, we are holding you responsible, and also our representative, we are also holding you responsible.
I want to thank my sister and also my brother for the excellent presentations. And I am sorry that more persons were not available this morning for the meeting. And as my sister said, some very important information came out from the chief surveyor. They didn't know. Some persons said they didn't know, some persons didn't. Right. And that is the exact thing that we are in agreement. That is the exact thing that we are in agreement with.
Insulting to us, we're not taking it.
As I said, in 2008, somebody came and said they had an interest to develop the quarry. That didn't take place. We now have somebody who has an interest, and we are at the stage where...
Yeah, let me keep it down, people, please. Come on, Georgie, let me keep it down, come on.
Yes, we are at the stage now where we have the concrete evidence that this project is going to begin. And as you rightfully said, at some point in time, the conversation about the compensation, the conversation about the unfolding of the project, and this is a part of a series of meetings. And I will definitely invite persons. As I said, I'm very happy that Kenton is here. I see the searchlight here. I see people going live. We have to engage in this conversation, and more documents will be presented. I've taken the note of all the documents that you have raised. And yes, thank you very much for holding it.
Minister James for that.
Yes. All right, thanks.
Mr. Minister, hold on now, let me get something. Let me say something. With the army consultation part, I quite agree with Miss James and the brother there, because there are some farmers here who did not even heard about the meeting this morning. They got to know during the day. So I think farmers need to know more information within the consultation period. But what I could say, I can't remember if it's 2008 or what, but I work with a French company up there. We were doing testing. We cut a number of traces from ridge to ridge. We hadn't enough even reach back as far as fall piece. I think the guys them was from Iceland or somewhere, right? So we did test there to to test the rock and stuff like that. So, from when we could say, like I think in that case, everybody now might know, but the information they don't know, a stone quarry about it. Guy work on that project, they do any testing, that they could know where amount of stone they and what's not. And where amount thing like to grade off the topsoil and stuff like that. Right. So I kind of know about that since 2008. I guess a few, not might be everybody as I said before, but I guess the word was out before anyway.
All right, thanks. Chief?
Yeah, good evening everybody.
Let me have one meeting please, brother.
Yeah, good evening everybody. And unfortunately I cannot tell. Yeah, good afternoon, and unfortunately I cannot tell you all welcome to my community because we didn't invite you to the community. But all that said and done, we have to move from a point, okay? And if this thing had 10 steps, at least the next step is the blasting. So that's the final phase. So right now it looks like we at step 9. Any project would come with the development, its value.
He's making some good points. Let me just...
And any project would come with its sacrifice. What we would like to know is the benefits. Would the benefits outweigh the sacrifice? And at this point, it's a foregone conclusion because you are so confident of the outcome of this whole process that the only thing now is start the blasting. So at last, step 1, you consulting the people, okay? The fact is, it's recent history that this place come down, and if you look over, there's a ledge. And it's the 1898 hurricane we brought that down. 1898 hurricane lick up every building in Chateaubelair except the Pong and the James building. So that area is not too stable. Fresh off the back of La Soufrière eruption. Because I spent the whole eruption in North Leeward. And hearing the staccato music in your head, this macabre rhythm, every night. Do you understand? I had some knowledge about the blasting. I did it on a few live. I tried to bring some awareness. When they came in 2007, the French company, I was up on that with my camera. I went on radio. We got something. I was working full time for Society. Well, in-house Society at the time. So therefore, we did some awareness. The company said they could only do 30 years and they wanted 40 or more, so therefore they bumped. So what I want to know is that study done from the study, you just piggybacking off of the study, or you commissioned your own study. Okay, before I go, because I take a chance to come back. I was on the board of St. Vincent and the Grenadines National Trust for 6 years. And when they were building the airport, I was objecting the airport. I still object to the airport. We forced them, caused the airport to do the environmental impact assessment. They had to bring Cox Consult of Germany to do that. And they started work before they began the assessment. I was in the trust building one and they hear the airport discipline board and I said, put that out. We did not approve that yet. Get it out. Nothing was done. But what I am saying, simple, is that people live in this community. Bright people, the population of North Leeward is 10,000. You understand? 10,000 people live here. That's 10% of the population. What about the significance of North Leeward in terms of historical and cultural? North Leeward is the home of the Garifuna. And nobody tell me about Garifuna was living in Greg's and all that crap, you know. Garifuna were black people.
I will dispute that, but
that's another time. That's another time. But then something. The cultural significance. Right now we're in the process of putting an application to UNESCO for heritage protection of North Leeward. That whole area suffering. We begin a lot of work has been done over a couple of years now. So that has not come out yet. You understand? But what I'm saying, simply decency, simply protocol, it happens anywhere, anywhere. When were you going to consult the people of North Leeward?
Good question. Good question.
People live here. I am heavily invested in the tourism industry. You know, I even have tour radios. I have a licensed tour operator since 2014. I've been a tour guide since 2011. I write on the history of this town. I train every sugar factory in this place here. and so on. When were you going to inform us? Because we're talking about the farmers, the tourism industry is heavily impacted. And after last volcano, the tourism industry is one of the only places I can see that can take us out of this red. We have the Minister of Tourism and the Minister of Environment at the same time just don't attend the conference, a world conference, and come on, you can consult your people. You cannot consult, you cannot inform your people, Mr. James. Mr. James, in election, tell me what here. You come to everybody. You know, this is going to affect us for 30 years and beyond. It's never an overnight thing. Come on. And what about your responsibility as a company? Your corporate responsibility as a company about the health and the cultural respect of the people. Where is your responsibility? I am telling you, we're going to fight this thing here. You got something in litigation, class action. You understand? We're going to tie up this thing with 1,000 cases in the magistrate courts. Watch me.
That is number one. That you control the dust with the wind from the village. That is number one. That is number one failure for the project. Can you stop the wind?
So you have raised the dust issue, and I take the point of the dust issue, and as I said, I will respond. Do you have any more questions, comments?
I'm recommending that the project be put on hold. I'm recommending that the project be put on hold until all the reports and consultation, look where houses are with everybody, and we give it a green light before any work continue over on that side. Because the fact that tractors are already there, there's a dust. You have the folks on Richmond who have been doing a good work in terms of the environment and so on. What they consulted, they are the closest neighbors. What they consulted.
Where is the land located?
Academy.
Where is the land located for the farmers?
What they consulted on the matter before?
Yes, they were in the last consultation.
Which took place when?
That took place in January in Kingston.
The truth is we were not invited. We find you on the beach, so please get it right.
No, you were present at the meeting.
Kingston, Murray Heights.
At Kingston.
You start the work. We make noise, then you invite.
No, let me just make a point, my brother. One of the points I want to make, right? Hold on. Let me make a point to you.
The project is going to stop.
You had a chance to speak, right? Can I speak now? Okay. No, you had a chance to speak. Now, let me make a point. When I will wrap up after this point. When I visited the quarry in St. Lucia, hold on, I'm telling you something. The technology that is being used now to crush rocks, yeah? On my way to the quarry, I asked the driver, I said, you live in the area? He said, I'm living in close proximity to the quarry. I said,
let me have one meeting, please, one meeting.
So I asked him, what is the impact in terms of the wind and all of the noise and all of that? The driver told me, to be quite honest, you know, I am more impacted by a garbage dump that is in the area. The quarry where it's located, in terms of the operation, we hardly have a lot of dust emanating from it, and the noise factor base and the machinery that is used is in a controlled environment. So, and that is a testimony from somebody who is living, not farming, but living in an area where the quarry is. Alright? So we will continue to have...
During the dry season, do you know the amount of wind came from the valley, from the mountain? And you know when it reached to the sea, it came back to the land. Do you know the amount, Mr. James? Do you have a vacuum? Do you have something
I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Have another question? Yes. Let's take the last question.
Don't take the last question. The last
After compensating the farmers, you're going to finance the black?
Yes. So the question on the floor. The question on the floor.
After compensating the farmers, you got to find land for them?
Yes, so that issue was raised this morning, that the compensation will be done based on the assessment of the crops, and that we're going to find alternative land so you can continue your livelihoods in agriculture.
So as the agriculture minister, I could see that you support the project, right? But to me, is that you undermine the agricultural recovery effort. Because in terms of the volcano now blow, right? And farmers and the volcano flank have to come this side. So most of them occupy the land over there and in Richmond. So what can happen?
I also say undermine because there are lands elsewhere that are not being utilized, that could be utilized, and those are the lands that we are going to look at.
Okay. Well, I'm going to that.
All right, so thank you very much. I think it was an excellent meeting. I've heard the issues, I've listened to the concerns, and we will come back with another consultation with more information. All right?
Okay, Minister James, so you guys have had this meeting with the farmers. Are you satisfied that this was a helpful exercise?
The meeting this morning we had was with the farmers. There was some miscommunication as to a misunderstanding of the nature of the project. And majority of the farmers at that meeting said, look, listen, we understand the need for the project. We are very much displeased that yes, we have to, some instances, relocate, but we're happy that the provisions are going to be made for compensation. And most of them were given the project the green light, in the sense that they want to see some development and activity in the area.
Well, I do understand that Minister Caesar spoke that this is not a meeting to necessarily address the environmental issues, but from what I heard, the residents were very, very concerned about that.
And importantly so, and they do have a right to raise these questions. But I will say, the physical planning board, they have done their assessments and they have asked the contractors for the project to provide certain requirements to satisfy the approval of the planning board, and they have met those requirements. And on the planning board, it's a board really comprising of a number of professionals and technical persons within the government. And essentially, they deem that the proposals before them would have met the environmental safeguards, and that is the important part which we take away from all of this. But I do agree that there also needs to be greater consultation with the residents of the community. But as you would have heard during my presentation, I indicated that even within the Richmond area, we're zoning the area where part of it is going to be part of the blue economy under a project, a World Bank project, which will be facilitating financing to construct eco-friendly activities and so on, and infrastructure development within the area as well. So also that component of it balances off, I would say, to some degree what is taking place with the operation of the quarry. And it's important that we also look at all of these things in a holistic way. The development that is going to take place in the tongue, dealing with the fishers and the rehabilitation of the fisheries complex, additional fads which will be added out offshore to facilitate our fishing industry, and all of these necessary infrastructure development that is going to take place in the area. It's a period of transformation, and we have to rapidly move to provide the necessary stimulus for economic growth, but importantly, providing sustainable livelihoods, environmental protection, and ensuring that we work in the interests of the community and the farmers. I have to also agree and join with the farmers to say we want to hold all of the operators accountable regarding that. It's important that we do hold them accountable.
But the final question, why is it that it seems that everything was done maybe back to front? Like what have been done?
There have been a series of ongoing discussions with technical persons, with stakeholders in the Richmond area, also with farmers. Even the meeting with farmers today, this morning, was not the first in the series of meetings. There have been meetings throughout the week, and prior to that, some of the farmers were reached too. Quite obviously, if you know the environment we're operating in with the pandemic, we decided to have this as an outdoor activity as opposed to inside an enclosed environment, so we can facilitate as much people come into this meeting. And I am happy that we're able to have the consultation. There's the awareness. People can learn about the project and both the negative and the positives that will be coming from it. And it's important that the community and members of the community get themselves versed on what is taking place. And that is something that I'm pushing for, and I'm happy that you can see that.
Thanks a lot, Minister.
But I want to also indicate that I am with the community and I'm with the farmers, that the appropriate terms in terms of compensation is met, and of course the environmental safeguards that are going to be in place. And it's important that we hold the operators accountable where that's concerned.
All right, thanks a lot. During the meeting, one of the things that you said is that you believe that the project should be halted until the community is properly consulted. Do you think that this is a reasonable request?
Yes, because had the proper consultation be done, the project may not have been started as yet. Because by then, we the residents of the area would have understood the health and the general environmental impact of the project. Let me say, we are not against development, because over the years, we in North Leeward have not really come out on top when it comes to employment and general industry. If the project is feasible, then so be it. But we don't know that. We don't know that. Minister Caesar promised a report, and that report was done since 4 or 5 years ago. That is unacceptable.
So what happens if the project goes forward and the community, the level of consultation that you think should happen does not happen?
If the project doesn't happen, we mobilize our people, and if our parliamentary representative, Mr. James, is really for us, he'd want to step back a little bit and say, listen, these people have genuine concerns. Let us halt the project and make sure that they're comfortable, give them the necessary information. If the project is feasible, then so be it. Now let us keep in mind that the representative that you interviewed for us said 99% of the aggregate is going to be shipped overseas, right? Which means we need to know what revenue will come from that if the project goes forward, and how we in the area is going to benefit.
All right, well, thank you very much for speaking to me.
You're welcome.
All right, take care. Good evening, sir. You were saying that you wanted to ask a question, but you didn't get a chance to ask you a question. Do you mind if I ask you, what is the question that you wanted to ask?
No, just one question, you know. Because the first thing that I wanted to endorse the whole point of the health system coming over here. Let me tell you something. From 1971 up until 1979, we inhale sulfur, because that is the direction of the wind coming over. You have that project over there with the dust, and for 30 years, right now we get there with 3 score. But when that starts, how many of us are going to get our 3 score? The next thing, everybody's saying that, oh, it is going to be a nice project and we're going to benefit. Tell me how our schools in the area are going to benefit. Tell me how our hospitals in the area are going to benefit. Tell me how the infrastructure in the area is going to benefit. Because when them benefit, the people would benefit. If you just tell me it's a good project and the people would benefit, they ain't saying nothing. Tell me how they're going to benefit. And there's so many other things, the whole environment. They're going to put a wharf out at Richmond Point. Let me tell you something here. Richmond Point got current that moving like, is an underwater thing that moving like a river when it come down. And the depth of Richmond Point, I heard the fella mention something about 30 feet or 30 yards. It's joking. Because you start to reach bottom yet, to lay down nothing down there, that a wharf could stand up on. So I don't see. It's not that we're against the whole thing, or no. We are not against it. If you're coming with development, because we want our area be developed. But when you want to politicize the whole thing, and this and that and the other, and just enforce things on us, you're disrespecting us. You really, you feel, well, boy, we ain't got nothing up there.